Have you ever met someone who made your heart race a little faster? And suddenly, words just started spilling out of your mouth. You tell them things you normally keep to yourself, your dreams, your fears, your mistakes, because in that moment, it feels safe. It feels right. You want them to know you really know you. But later you realize, maybe you said too much. Maybe you handed over parts of yourself that weren't meant to be given away so quickly. Here's the truth. The moment you start to care for someone, your mind whispers, let them in. But wisdom whispers back, not yet. Because when emotions rise, logic tends to fade. And that's when people start oversharing, not because they're weak, but because they're trying to prove they're real, honest, and trustworthy. But in that rush to connect, they forget one simple rule of power. You don't owe anyone full access to you. The most magnetic people are not the ones who reveal everything. They are the ones who make you wonder, the ones who can be kind yet controlled, warm yet mysterious. They give you enough to feel something, but never enough to take everything. Because when you overshare, especially when you like someone, you hand over your emotional power. You show them your blueprint, your triggers, your soft spots. And the wrong person will use that information not to love you, but to control you. Think about it. How many times have you shared something personal too soon, only to regret it later? Maybe you told someone about your past pain, your insecurities, or your ambitions, and they turned that knowledge into a weapon, or they simply lost respect for you. Because the truth is, people don't value what's easily given. What's scarce is respected. What's mysterious is remembered. So before you open your heart to someone, pause. Don't mistake emotional exposure for emotional depth. Sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is silence. Sometimes holding something back isn't cold, it's wise. Because what you protect, you preserve, and what you preserve grows in value. Never overshare, especially when you like them, because attraction might draw someone to you. But self-control, that quiet confidence that says, I don't need to tell you everything to prove my worth. That's what keeps them curious. That's what earns their respect. And if you truly want to build something lasting, something meaningful, it must begin with restraint. Because the moment you stop trying to be understood, you start to become unforgettable. Emotional intelligence isn't about being soft. It's about being smart. It's knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to share and when to hold back. When emotions run high, especially when you like someone, your instinct tells you to connect, to open up, to show them who you are. You want to be seen, to be understood. But wisdom teaches you that not everyone deserves that access. Not everyone has earned the right to your unfiltered truth. Emotional intelligence is the ability to pause and assess the moment before giving someone a piece of yourself that can't be taken back. When you meet someone who excites you, your brain releases chemicals that make you feel safe and euphoric. Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, all designed to make connection feel good. But those same chemicals also make you vulnerable. They cloud your judgment. You might find yourself saying things you wouldn't normally reveal, trusting too soon, believing that transparency equals connection. But emotional intelligence says pause, observe, let time reveal who this person truly is before you hand over your secret. Because once your story is out there, you can't control what someone does with it. Self-protection doesn't mean building walls. It means setting gates. It's knowing that not every smile deserves a story, and not every touch deserves trust. It's choosing to let people in slowly, not out of fear, but out of respect for yourself. You are the gatekeeper of your peace, and your emotions are your first line of defense. People who lack emotional intelligence often give away their power by talking too much, revealing too soon, or trying too hard to prove they're genuine. But emotional intelligence teaches you that your worth doesn't need explanation. You don't have to narrate your heart for someone to see its value. The strongest people are those who know how to master their emotions, not suppress them. They feel deeply, but they express strategically. They understand that silence can protect them more than honesty can. Because honesty without discernment is exposure. And exposure without trust leads to regret. So emotional intelligence isn't about shutting people out. It's about letting them in with awareness. When you practice emotional intelligence, You stop chasing validation and start practicing observation. You start asking yourself, does this person make me feel safe enough to share, or am I trying to make them like me by being open? That one question can save you from heartbreak, manipulation, and disappointment. Remember, being emotionally intelligent doesn't make you guarded, it makes you wise, because when you control what you reveal, you control what they can take. Not everyone deserves access to you. And that's not arrogance, it's awareness. You are not a public diary. Your life is not open for anyone who shows temporary interest. The world often tells us that being open and vulnerable is the key to connection, but that's only true when it's with the right person. The wrong person will take your openness as weakness. They'll listen not to understand you, but to measure you, to find where your boundaries end and where they can begin to cross them. When you like someone, your judgment softens. You start convincing yourself that being completely honest will make them see how genuine you are. You tell yourself that if you show your heart, they'll value it. But here's the truth, people value what they have to earn. And emotional access is something that must be earned slowly, intentionally, and through consistent trust. The more you give without discernment, the less they have to work for it. And what comes too easily is rarely respected. You must start seeing yourself as someone who holds value, because you do. Your experiences, your struggles, your ambitions, these are sacred parts of you. When you hand them to someone too quickly, you strip them of their meaning. Not because your story isn't beautiful, but because it's not meant for everyone's ears. Some people are only meant to witness a chapter, not read the entire book. You must learn to recognize the difference between curiosity and care. Some people only want to know you so they can feel important, not because they truly want to understand you. The reality is, energy is expensive. Every conversation, every detail, every piece of your truth costs you something. Your time, your peace, your emotional energy. So ask yourself before you open up, has this person earned the right to hear this part of me? Have they shown consistency, respect, and genuine interest without judgment? If the answer is no, then your silence is not rejection, it's protection. Boundaries are not walls, they're filters. They don't keep love out, they keep chaos away. When you become selective about who gets access to you, you stop attracting people who take and start attracting people who value. You'll find that real connections don't demand full disclosure, they build it, one moment of trust at a time. Protecting your access is not about playing games. It's about preserving your peace, because the more selective you are with who gets close to you, the more powerful, peaceful, and confident you become. Silence is one of the most underestimated forms of power. In a world where everyone is constantly talking, posting, and explaining themselves, silence stands out. It demands attention without begging for it. When you're quiet, people start to wonder. They start to pay attention, not because you're trying to impress them, but because your calmness creates a sense of mystery. Silence pulls people in the same way. Noise pushes them away. It's not about being distant, it's about being deliberate. You don't need to tell everyone what you think, how you feel, or what your next move is. The less you reveal, the more others assume. An assumption keeps curiosity alive. When you like someone, it's natural to want to fill every silence with words. You want to be engaging, interesting, memorable, but often, that desire to connect leads to over-explaining, oversharing, and over-giving. You end up trying to prove your worth instead of simply being. Silence, on the other hand, communicates confidence. It says, I'm comfortable enough in myself not to fill every space with noise. When you don't rush to explain or defend yourself, you show that your peace doesn't depend on other people's understanding. That is power. Silence also gives you control. The person who speaks less, listens more, and observes carefully always has the advantage. When you don't react immediately, you learn more about people, their intentions, their motives, their sincerity. You see who respects your quiet and who tries to break it. You learn who can sit with you in silence without needing to fill it, and that tells you more than words ever could. There's also something deeply magnetic about restraint. People are drawn to what they can't fully read. When you maintain a level of mystery, you stay intriguing. It's not about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about holding back just enough so that others have to earn the privilege of knowing more. That's not manipulation, that's self-respect. Because once you've told someone everything, there's nothing left for them to discover. And in relationships, mystery is oxygen. It keeps curiosity alive. It fuels interest. It deepens respect. Silence creates that space. It allows others to reflect, to wonder, to value what they don't yet understand. So don't be afraid of being quiet. Don't mistake stillness for weakness. Silence isn't the absence of communication, it's the presence of control. When you master it, you stop chasing validation and start commanding attention without saying a word. Oversharing is often not a sign of confidence, it's a sign of insecurity. It comes from the need to be seen, understood, and accepted as quickly as possible. When you meet someone and feel that spark, your emotions start to take the lead. You want to show them who you are, to make them like you, to prove that you're real. But underneath that openness, there's often a quiet fear. The fear that if you don't share enough, they'll lose interest. So you overcompensate. You tell them more than you should, more than they've earned, because deep down you want to feel chosen. But connection built on oversharing isn't intimacy, it's desperation in disguise. When you overshare, you hand someone a map of your insecurities. You show them where you've been hurt, what makes you anxious, and what you crave most. To the wrong person, that information becomes power, a way to manipulate your emotions, test your limits, or take advantage of your kindness. And even if they don't have bad intentions, oversharing still creates imbalance. It removes the mystery, the gradual unfolding that makes relationships meaningful. Real trust is built slowly, not forced in the first few conversations. People overshare because they confuse transparency with trustworthiness. They believe that being an open book makes them genuine. But being genuine doesn't mean you have to reveal everything. It means being honest with what you choose to share at the right time with the right person. Oversharing skips the process of emotional discernment. It's the result of needing reassurance rather than giving respect to your own privacy. When you respect yourself, you don't feel the urge to prove your value through your words. Your energy already communicates it. There's also another truth. Sometimes people overshare because they're uncomfortable with silence. They fear that if they don't keep talking, they'll lose the other person's attention. But silence is not rejection. It's space. And space is where attraction grows. When you're secure within yourself, you don't rush to fill the air with explanations. You let people come to you, you allow curiosity to build naturally. Oversharing fades when self-trust strengthens, and you know your worth, you stop trying to sell it. You realize that not everyone deserves to know your struggles or your scars. You begin to see that holding parts of yourself back isn't deception, it's self-respect. Because the more you love yourself, the less you feel the need to convince others to do the same. Your story is your power, and protecting it is one of the most important acts of self-respect you can practice. Every chapter of your life, every experience, every mistake, every victory has shaped who you are. Those moments belong to you, and not everyone deserves to hold a piece of them. Too often we give our stories away too easily, to strangers, to people we're trying to impress, to those we hope will understand us. But the truth is, not everyone can handle the weight of your truth. Not everyone will honor it the way it deserves. Some will listen to understand, but many will listen to remember, and use it when it benefits them. That's why protecting your story is not secrecy. It's strategy. You don't have to share everything to be real. Realness isn't measured by exposure. It's measured by integrity. You can be authentic and still private. You can be honest without being vulnerable to the wrong people. When you protect your story, you're not being cold. You're being careful. You're choosing who gets to access your energy and your history. You're recognizing that your story is sacred, and sacred things are not meant to be thrown into casual conversations or used as a test of connection. Every time you reveal something about yourself, you're teaching others how to treat you. If you give too much too soon, you teach them that your boundaries are negotiable. But when you hold back, when you let people earn your story, you teach them to value it. You show them that your life isn't an open book, it's a privilege to read. And those who truly care will take their time to understand each page. There is strength in silence and dignity in mystery. Protecting your story means knowing when to speak and when to keep quiet. It means recognizing that your past pain, your personal growth, your private victories, these are treasures that belong to you. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your journey. The moment you stop explaining yourself, you reclaim your narrative. You stop letting others define your story and start defining it yourself. So protect your story. Guard it the way you guard your peace. Share it only with those who have proven they can hold it with care. Because once you start seeing your story as power, you'll stop giving it away for validation. You'll realize that silence can be your greatest armor and your greatest strength. In the end, your power doesn't come from how much you share, it comes from how much you protect. The world will always tell you to open up, to be real, to be vulnerable. But true strength isn't found in exposure, it's found in discernment. You don't have to prove your honesty by giving people access to every part of your soul. You don't have to hand over your past, your fears, or your private thoughts just to be accepted. The people meant for you will never require your overexposure to see your worth. The truth is, silence, boundaries, and restraint are not weaknesses. They're wisdom. They're signs of someone who knows their value. Because when you like someone, it's easy to get swept up in the emotion and forget to protect your power. But remember this, connection built on mystery lasts longer than connection built on oversharing. Real love, real respect, and real loyalty grow in time, not through emotional shortcuts. So the next time you feel the urge to explain yourself, to tell too much, or to seek validation through words, pause. Let your silence speak for you. Let your presence, your actions, and your confidence communicate what your words don't need to. Protect your story, your peace, and your privacy, like the treasures they are. Because once you learn to master what you reveal, you'll master how people treat you. Never overshare, especially when you like them. Keep some things sacred. Keep some things yours. The more you protect your story, the more powerful your presence becomes, and the world will start to lean in. Not because you're talking, but because your silence has become impossible to ignore.